Digital Marketing Radio, episode 101, Infographic Marketing. DigitalMarketingRadio.com. I'm David Bain, and this is Digital Marketing Radio, weekly interviews with digital marketing experts. Catch up with all the previous episodes on DigitalMarketingRadio.com. The big interview with David Bain. Today I'm joined by Danny Ashton. Danny, welcome to DMR.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be on 101 episode, which is great.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not the room, honestly. So Danny's founder of NeoMam, a visual content agency based in Manchester, UK. You can find him over at neomam.com. So Danny, you describe what you do as visual content marketing. What would you say is the difference between visual content marketing and infographic marketing?
Well, I suppose it's more of a kind of positioning point, but I think infographics are a format within the visual content space. So yeah, you had article marketing back in the day, which was just articles, and then that developed into content marketing. And I suppose with visual content, it's very similar to the content marketing side of things, and obviously developing concepts that engage with audiences. But for what we do, we're all about the kind of the visual side of things. So looking at how the visuals themselves are going to support the message or the concept that we're doing. So it could be infographics, it could be kind of visuals, it could be GIFs, it could be videos, it could be interactive experiences. And so it's just to kind of give a kind of full range of what we do. And often with any new kind of format and any kind of new area, we're always looking into the next big thing as well. So we're always looking into there. But for us, it's kind of, we only look at the visual stuff. So we've not got plans to start getting writers and the rest of that whole kind of expertise. We're more about working together within that format and seeing how that works to support our clients' goals.
I remember years ago, visual and moving visuals used to be about horrible things like splash flash pages. You don't get involved with anything like that, do you?
No, certainly not. Well, I come from a kind of SEO background, so Flash was all the big, the big fear that we had with clients. So you open it up and the whole thing's built in Flash and it couldn't be read and the rest of that. But I kind of came through it from the promotion outreach side of content, a link builder from the early days, and then kind of developed into that area. But yeah, when I got there, HTML5 was already, Flash was already kind of old school and no one was talking about it. So yeah, we haven't done it. Maybe it'll come back like anything. I don't, everything, nothing's dead. But it's the same with kind of, widgets. I remember when, I kind of first started, with putting stuff on Dig front page and what have you. And widget bait was the big thing. Do people in widgets, getting them out there, getting in loads of trouble with Google, and that's kind of slowly come back. And we're looking at those type of practical, interactive kind of not widgets. There we call them something different now.
I remember a few years ago, things like if you built your own WordPress theme, you'd have probably a link back to your website from the bottom of that. And that was a similar kind of thing that was done with widgets. Is it worthwhile at all doing that now from an SEO perspective?
Well, I think that, the big thing with the widgets when it happened was that, the issue that Google had, which is a fair issue, was that often people using it didn't know they were linking to onlineeducation.org or whoever that was. Apologies. I think they've already been penalized, so we're all good on that. But it was, there wasn't the control over the anchor text, and people could play with it and people could. So we never recommend that. I think with embed codes in general, they can be quite useful because they can allow non-tech savvy people to post it and to credit in the correct way. But the credit just has to be very simple, very basic. Look, these made it, this URL did it. So no kind of tricks to try and direct them through to your e-commerce product page or anything like that. Just keep it really simple, as if they were doing it themselves, and it can work. But what you'll generally find is the big journalists, they're not going to be using embed codes or anything like that. They're just going to be they're going to be crediting their own way in the way that they work. Often with a few emails to ask them to do it properly, but that's our job, I suppose, to do that.
So infographics then, can they be used for just brand building and direct traffic building at the moment, or are they still any good for SEO as well?
So yeah, I mean, it's seen it. I think there's still a kind of a valid form of link building, of supporting, and there's many people out there using that as part of a content mix. Certainly, like anything, if you only to use that, then potentially there's risk, as it was with anything. But the way that we see it is that infographics are there to as one element to support your overall kind of content marketing goals. So if they help to tell that story in an effective manner, and they do it for the right budget, that's often the discussion that has to be had, is saying, well, we want to produce content around these different subject matters. We want to alleviate these problems. So we want to look at how we do that. And if creating a listicle or a GIF can achieve that for a tenth of the price of a full-scale infographic or interactive experience, then of course that's the approach you should take. But often, a lot of what our clients are doing is to create something that is in depth, is in detail, and they want to get a really wide reach with it. And still to this day, I know, and I'm always open to it. If someone tells me that there's a format that is more shareable and is more open to sharing with publishers and bloggers and influencers, then we'll certainly be the first on it. There isn't, as of yet, I believe, and if anyone wants to kind of tell me otherwise, a content format that can be shared further and wider than the current static infographic.
Go and tell Danny, everyone. What's your Twitter ID, Danny?
It's just my name, Danny Ashton. So
Danny
yeah.
Ashton. So go and tell him. I was just going to say, in relation to that, is there ever a case actually to have a Nofollow link within your own embed code, or is that just being a little bit too careful?
I mean, we try not to think about the kind of the SEO mindset, and we're quite clear on that when we're working with our clients. For us, if it makes sense for the publishers, it makes sense for the overall goals to achieve it, then it makes sense. I think often getting too kind of caught up on, even in the plan itself, saying, well, we need 25% no follow sites, we want 15% from the UK and all this stuff. I think it's the wrong, I personally think it's the wrong mindset to approach content in general. And actually it should always be about the audience, what they're expecting, and how far we can get it, and how far and wide. The challenge will always be getting real people to take action and real people to publish it. And that's the number one challenge that you're working on. And the little things, I wouldn't sweat it too much. I mean, yeah, it's, yeah, if that, we personally wouldn't do that, and we wouldn't think like that. And I don't think it's the best way, but.
Right. Yeah. I tell you what, I really like that answer, because it reminds me of a very early internet marketing course that I saw. I think it was back in something like 2004. There was a guy called John Reese from the United States that did a big training course called Traffic Secrets, and he did a big seminar himself, and then there was a bit of interaction there, and some of the audience said, well, the best way of actually being successful in SEO is to mimic nature. And at the time, that was really, really good advice, because instead of just doing lots of things like submitting your website to 2,000 directories, it was advising, well, copy what would happen if your content got shared naturally. And then try and get links from lots of different places. And that was a strategy that worked really well. But what you're just saying is one step evolved from that. And actually, no, you don't have to mimic nature. You actually just have to be natural. Do things that are so great that people want to share them naturally. And if you're not getting them shared naturally, then perhaps your content isn't good enough to begin with.
Completely. I think I had a similar course a little bit later on, actually. I think part of the same group, and there was I think, I don't know if, but like Dan Thies and Leslie Rhodey they did a course. I can't remember. It was part of the same kind of crew of people who were talking about this thing, which at the time was, it was completely unfashionable, and a lot of people were like, well, this stuff's working, and it was during the the glory years of the of link acquisition, if you want to call it that. And I remember I spent a lot of time on their course actually, and it was really good. Now, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't right, but the core fundamentals were the same. And his big argument against, and he said it back when no one was listening. I mean, people were listening. Certainly, I was, and a few other people were. But where it wasn't, it wasn't like it is now, where it's just you can just say it's a cliche or whatever. Do it for real. But he was saying, look, it's not so much an issue that it's not going to work now or it's going to get you in trouble, because that he didn't know that. But it's more about where do you want to put your time into to invest into a system that is going to exist or the one that isn't going to exist. And I think that for me was when the penny dropped. And I was a a spammer as much as the next person. I used to do my own affiliate sites. I used to buy link wheels. I used to build them myself. They're still on the web today. I'm ashamed of it. All the rest of it. But when he kind of put that case and you followed, and I'd already been doing things like link bait, so I knew what that felt like as well as on a personal level. It felt good. It felt like I could achieve something. Whereas building a Squiddy page, linking to a hub page, linking to an e-zine, linking to that, it didn't feel, you knew it wasn't great. But for him saying it's not so much about how it works, if it works or not, it's you're wasting your time, because eventually you're going to throw that back. And I'm glad that I didn't, and many people probably would have scaled these machines up with hundreds of people, even outsourced, building these absolute link, spam farms or whatever. And they've invested a lot of time and money, and it would have been so hard for them to then say, ouch, this isn't working. And no one likes doing that. And everyone has to do that in their job. And I think for me, that was it. It's like, do you want to waste your time? And it's like, that was the big thing in my head all the time, which was like, well, if I'm going to build something, I want to build something that's still going to last in 10 years time, because I don't like changing my mind and doing more, different things. So yeah. And there was a lot of people preaching that, and I don't think as many people listening, but I think you are now. The truth is you have to do it for real. You have to do it right. And if you don't, it's obvious, and you just can't perform at the level that's required.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's very easy to actually follow the route of going down there, just building links, because I mean, back over 10 years ago, I'd one web page using Google AdSense that was making more than $100 a day for a couple of years, just a single web page, and it would have been,
it was great, wasn't it?
It was amazing, yeah. I mean, and it would have been so easy just to replicate that and just keep on going, but in my heart, I knew it wasn't a long-term business model, and I didn't particularly enjoy doing it. So even though I could have made more money back then, I'm kind of glad that I didn't, and I tried to focus on better ways of doing things.
I mean, there's a client who I work with to this day, and he's a good friend of mine. And when I met him, I was very new I was still freelancer, and I was doing little bits of work with him and working on my own sites. And he had an empire of about, I think it was about £40,000 a month AdSense payment. And this guy was doing the same thing as you. He got a few sites that worked $100, and he just decided to, because he doesn't come from digital marketing or anything like that. He is a different industry, and he just went, I'm going to scale this. And he scaled before no one was scaling. And the truth was, yeah, he built this empire, but every one of those sites is now banned, and there'll be plenty of other examples of those. And some of those people were able to use that to develop other things, but. And it might have been that, maybe I was the fool for not spamming harder at the time and just cashing out. And I'm sure there's plenty of people like that, but you just got to know what your personality is. And I know it's like, I don't like change, whether it's in my personal life or my work life. I like to know that I'm building something, that's going to last, that I'm not wasting my time. Because, you're not always wasting, and there's plenty of skills I'm sure people learn, but it's having a machine. I know that the process that I've developed maybe 4 years ago has been improved upon, but it's still fundamentally the same thing. And so it's not like the time in each time you're adding to it and adding value to it, that, you want to see time. And I know the kind of content that we produce is still going to be, it's going to be improved upon, but it's going to be the same thing. We're not going to have to change our business model or look at new avenues for revenue or anything like that, because I hope so anyway.
Yeah,
look
absolutely.
back on this podcast and be like, oh yeah, no.
What was I saying? So taking it back to infographics a bit, obviously you'll see a lot of businesses doing them well and some doing maybe not so well. What are the few of the mistakes out there that you can advise people not to do?
Okay, so I would say the fundamental mistake is either being just too product focused. This is like this is what everyone does, everyone when they start. And I say that we probably did it ourselves. And that's the thing, right? We sell widgets, so we got to do an infographic about a widget. And I think the problem with that is that, you're not, if you were just to create an advert and then you were going to put some advertising money behind it, that may be the correct procedure. But with content marketing, infographics, whatever, it's all about providing value to the audience, and by that very fact, value to the publishers, because the publishers choose to feature the content because it has value to them inherently, because their audience will enjoy it and they will benefit from shares, views, and everything else like that. The challenge if you do something with this is very product focused, is that a publisher is just going to say, well, I don't know if that's got value to my audience, and it seems like an advert. And so the first thing you're going to come across is people just not going to run it. They're not going to reply to your messages. And it doesn't mean that you have to go mad and go on the other side of things, which I certainly did in my early career, which was like, just do it about something wacky, do it something about cats, do it something, and that might work, but it still doesn't alleviate the issue, because publishers are going to be like, well, why have you created that? I think the very basic thing is to look at, well, what is it that my product, my widget alleviates? What is that problem? And what are those, and how can I support a potential customer in those problems? So what isn't even, maybe I have a problem with my product itself. They might, the examples are endless. I'll give one example, which is a florist, for example, that we're working with at the moment. And they have, obviously they sell flowers. So part of the ideation we did for them was to look at flowers and look at the issues with that. And one of the issues that a lot of florists have is that the flowers die quickly, not particularly like earlier than its competitors or anything like that, but they do, that is one of the issues. And so we produced a piece of content to make them last longer. Very simple, and we go into detail, and we do the rest of it. And you can use things like hairspray. But whilst it is talking about, his product, is not going, well, this florist flowers are great, and these are great, or this is why we're big in our industry. It's more about, look, this is a problem, and it could be applied to you choosing any of your of your competitors, but it adds value, and in exchange for that, publishers are willing to run it. They're willing to actually ask for your advice. Why have you put this together? Ask for your expertise and the rest of it, because you're giving something as well. So I think it's about giving something before, and then if you do want to push it a bit more, then you wait to be asked. It's just I think that's kind of general common sense, really.
Okay, that's a great few tips there. So what about over the coming year or so? Do you think there are likely to be any significant changes to infographic marketing or visual content marketing? And if so, what?
Yeah, so I think if anyone's been involved in infographics or done them themselves, they'll know that it is getting harder, as we do with any sort of content format. So if you look back to 2010, say, when we kind of just started, really, and I look back at the infographics we produced, they weren't great. We were doing them on a very limited budget, and we were getting great results. And as with any new thing, you have to invest more and more into it, and more time into it to make it stand out from the crowd. The truth is, there are lots of other people doing good infographics. It hurts me to say it, but there is. And also, even publishers are getting involved. So this is one of the big challenges that we see as an agency, is that companies like Mashable, Business Insider, they are producing their own infographics, because they've seen what we're doing as an industry, and they think that works really well. We don't want to have to rely on running stuff for agencies' clients. We want to develop that for ourselves. And looking at the BuzzFeed, like their model as well, is that actually the publishers are going to have to, they develop the infographics for clients for themselves as well. So the competitors are on all sides, as with any market that generates revenue. So I think I often look to the publishers getting involved and producing their own content formats, because if they do, you'll be darn sure they're not going to run it. And that's the problem with anyone trying to get on Mashable now, is the reply is, we produce our own infographics, but thank you very much. So that's going to be the challenge. If everyone starts running their own infographics, then we're going to be in a hard space. There may come a time where everyone's got their own infographic design company or publisher. So there isn't going to be that avenue. So you're going to have to look at, how do you develop something more?
It's interesting, yeah, because a lot of businesses out there are certainly starting to understand that they need to be thinking about being a publisher themselves, producing their own quality content, engaging their users. Would you say that the majority of businesses are actually starting to do it well, or there's still a lot of room for improvement there?
So I'll give you examples of our experience. So we work a lot with UK business and US business primarily. I would say that the US is certainly on the content marketing side of things are very far ahead. I would say probably in years in regards to how they think about it. That's not to say that there isn't UK businesses that are doing it well and completely understanding and get it. But certainly as an example of speaking to potential clients or clients within the US, they're certainly teaching us a lot of things and we're getting a lot back. Whereas I do look to the UK market, I think just from a purely point of view of why should we develop this type of content? Why do we have to create for the publishers in mind? Why can't we just create adverts? And the very the discussions that you have usually on at the start of your learning process it does happen a lot more in the UK. So yeah, that I think that's kind of where we are with it currently.
That's interesting. So still a long way to go. Well, let's segue into the second section of our discussion. So that focuses more on your thoughts on where digital marketing has been and where it's heading. So starting off with
software I couldn't live without.
What software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you, it would significantly impact your marketing success? I
would say for me personally, and obviously I use a few different tools, but I'd say BuzzSumo is ultimate. Right. It is the, I've spoken to the guy who kind of runs it, and I was doing a lot of ideas today, so I was still involved in the ideas process for our clients, and just mainly because there's quite a few people on holiday as well this week. But this tool is key. It's a tool that actually we were building until it got released. So you can imagine that we really, really love it. So all it does is I don't know if you've come across it, have you?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it obviously pulls in all the data, and they're always developing it as well. So there's a new thing that came out this week even. I've not found used that in any level of depth, but just having something that you can know what kind of content's doing well. But like any tool, and this can be applied for everything, and I'm sure you'd agree, is that it's not perfect. You can't just have a monkey sat there and it'll pump out good ideas. It is a tool and it has to be used, and certain things it works really well at and certain things it doesn't. And still every day I'm trying to find new things. So I'm working on a blog post at the moment, which is my entire ideas process. So it's pretty much 8 years of my life developed into a blog post. I'm at the introduction stage and it's 800 words. So I feel like it might be a bit of a long one, but it's right. Exciting to do. Yeah, it feels like that. Yeah, I thought maybe a little book, but we'll see. Probably just a super long parallax scrolled post.
It's incredible the length of some blog posts nowadays. It's quite common to get blog posts which are 5,000 words plus long. It's just nuts.
No, yeah, I think it's one of the things that people talked about. I think Brian Dean talks about this, that you should have more in-depth blog posts. I mean, if every time I write a post, it has to be long, and I don't do it because I want to get more words in there or something. It's just more that you want to make your message across, because the truth is a blog post is perfect for that. People will sit down and read it, or they'll send it to the Kindle. I hope people sometimes do, but yeah.
So, okay, BuzzSumo, that's a great recommendation. Here's a slightly more challenging question. What piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about and you intend to try at some point in the near future?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the tool that I like the idea of, and I don't want to spend the money on, which is probably the thing, is Gorkana. So yeah, it looks for kind of people who work in the media. It is quite expensive. So it's we're still a small agency, so it's trying to and you have to pay up front for a year. So it's waiting for that time that's right for us. But I do think it would be a very cool tool, and it's one of them where you just have to use quite a lot to make sure you can get the value from it.
I wish I would have.
I'd like you to look back on the very first day that you're involved in trying to market a business online. What didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, I used to work in agency, and often when I look back at my time at the agency that I worked at, which was a large agency, I spent a lot of time just doing what I like to do, which was link bait, and not doing much work, to be fair. But I was in an agency that was a part of a big, very successful agency that used to pitch, bring big clients, and I just ignored all of that stuff. I ignored the HR, I ignored the way that the agency run, how they price things up, which right now or throughout this time of running my own agency would have been pretty darn useful. So I do think back of those times and think I wish I had. At least some of it rubbed off on me. I know I did. We have done okay. But yeah, I would have certainly spent a lot more time printing out documents, taking hard drives, the work. I don't know if that's completely legal, but I would have at least kept my eyes open and took more from what the management were doing.
The this or that round.
Okay, this is the quick response round. 10 quick questions and just 2 rules here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on 1 occasion. So, ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Email or Twitter?
Email.
Audio or video?
Audio.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Affiliates.
Facebook or Google Plus?
Facebook. No, Google Plus. No, both. I don't know. I don't hate you both of them.
Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
One-on-one relations.
Paid search or SEO?
SEO, yeah.
Email contact form or telephone number?
Email contact. It's a lot easier to track.
Website or app?
Website.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Email subscriber.
And local marketing or global marketing?
Global, definitely.
Oh, you handled just the one both there. That what's your issue with Facebook or Google Plus?
Well, I've removed myself from Facebook now 10 months, so I'm clean. I know that seems mad as a person who works in online marketing, but I made that
clean as in just take it, just like got rid of all your friends, but stayed as admin of a page, or just completely obliterated your life.
Completely obliterated my personal account, so I don't have a personal Facebook account. I do need to delete it, which is my next stage, but it's completely deactivated. Although I did have to use it for an Airbnb booking about 6 months ago, but yeah, so I'm completely off that. Google Plus, I don't use really. I have to say, I know some people love it. I pretty much my only piece is Twitter, and even then I've sometimes switched that off from time to time, just because I'm a big I think there's a lot of things that you can waste time on. So for me, Twitter is not so much a networking tool, it's more of like my soap opera. So I use it to kind of look at the world, and that can't, sometimes isn't useful, sometimes it is useful, whereas I know there's plenty of things that I can be getting on with my time where I'm not in a kind of, I think Lyndon put it closely as saying, he described creating content as like, creating crack for the audience of the world, and you have to be careful that you don't become, as a dealer, you don't become a user. So I feel like, especially spending time on Reddit and these places that I have to do to kind of pull ideas, it's quite easy to go down that rabbit hole and lose 2 hours of your time, especially when I don't have a boss. So I have to be very hard on myself to defend my time I have to work.
The $10,000 question.
If I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
Wow, that's a. I should just say Infographics, shouldn't I? But $10,000 to spend. Yeah, I'd probably just develop a really in-depth piece of. I'd probably just hire the NeoMam team if I didn't have to do the work myself, and get them to produce probably for that price, if I could, I could negotiate, as I do seem to know a few of them. I'd probably get a nice interactive infographic. I think would be quite nice. We produced one back in June of 2013, and it was definitely our biggest driver of links, 670 referring domains, which is great, but also traffic. It's still our #1 driver of traffic beyond the whole site by about 3 times today. So that's like, a year and a bit. And also as my lead generator, it's great. Now, I don't know if we could repeat that success, but certainly that would be something that if I were to spend the money, because it is very hard, for often what we do is as much time that goes into it than having the cash, just because it's often the having the time of myself, or having the time of the managers that we have to actually come up with things. So yeah, if I could hire the team and they wouldn't have repercussions on clients, then I'd do that.
I spoon-fed you an easy answer there, didn't I?
My number one takeaway.
Well, Danny, you've offered a lot of great advice in our conversation there, but what would you say is the number one takeaway? That's the single most important thing that our listeners just need to take away and implement in their own businesses.
Yeah, so I think seeing in content marketing as a, the first thing that anyone should do is identify who their digital audience is. And it's the same as identifying your audience in the real world. And I think that exercise itself, if you go through it, it isn't, pick up any small business marketing book. There's one by T. Blick on Amazon, which I found really, really useful. And there's a chapter in there about how to identify your audience. So what is it that your product does? Who do you normally sell to, and breaking all those things down. And having that before you even think about buying blog posts, infographics, interactives, whatever, which is often the opposite of what most people do. And saying, like, who do we want to speak to? And spending all that time in that process to see what they're already sharing, what they already care about, what issues they may have. I promise you, makes your life a lot easier, and also means you've got more opportunity. You'll get far better results as well. It's taken me 5 or 6 years to get there, but that's pretty much the one piece of advice. Find who your audience is before you even start doing anything, and it'll get a lot cheaper, and it'll be a lot cheaper in the long run as well.
Great. Stop shooting in the dark.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, great piece of advice, and well, that takes us to the end of our discussion today. So thank you so much for your time and your advice. What's the best way for our audience to find out more about you and what you do?
Well, I'm not on Facebook, but I am on Twitter. So Danny Ashton is on my Twitter, and just check out the NeoMam site. We've got nice case studies and portfolio of what we do. We spent quite a bit of time building our site. People seem to like it. So neomam.com, MAM.com. So,
Great stuff. Okay, well, thanks again, Danny.
Thank you, David.
Great. Okay, well, we'll see you next time on. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.